Hello everyone, welcome back to PyNet Labs. My name is Chirag and today I am back again with an automation scenario which is going to teach you about how you can automate something that can take hours if done manually. So we are discussing a situation where we are assuming that we have got 40 routers across 20 branches, let's say. And what we are trying to implement is we are trying to make sure that the interface description configurations are correct on all the interfaces of all the routers. So that's going to take a lot of time if we do it manually, right? For example, here I have 3 routers and we'll not be obviously taking 20 devices, but we are assuming that these are the 3 routers that I wish to manage. And if I do the configuration of description manually, then it's going to take somewhat around 5 to 7 steps, connecting to the router being the very first step. So I'll take the SSH access of my device like this. I'll put my credentials. Once I have got the access, I'll check the number of interfaces, show IP interface brief. And then I'll have to make sure that the description of all these interfaces are configured correctly. To check that, first of all, I'll have to say show run interface GI00. Then I'll be able to check the description, and if there is no description, then I'll have to say config t interface GI00 and set the description, something like this, right? Then I will have to move to the next interface, do show run interface GI0/1, right? Again, there is no description. I'll have to proceed and configure the description accordingly. Once I am done, I can take the exit, close my session, and then move to the next one, 10.255.1.102, which is my router number 2. But yeah, I mean, doing this for 3 routers is still an easy task, but doing this for 40 routers is going to take a lot of time, right? So if you are someone who are managing the devices and configuring the devices using a manual method using CLI, then this video is for you. I'm going to teach you how you can automate the whole scenario starting from the very scratch, and for this we'll be using a library called NetMiko. So what I want from you guys is a basic understanding of Python. If you do have that basic knowledge, then you will be able to learn this tutorial tonight. So let's get started. I'll open my VS Code and I'll get started with constructing my script.
If you enjoyed the content of the video, don't forget to like and share the video and subscribe to our channel.
I have a lab here called, a file here called automation challenge. So let's begin first of all by calling the library NetMiko. From NetMiko import connect handler. That's the very first step. After that, I'll also call from getPass import getPass, and then I'll get started by defining my router details. I've got 3 routers, so let me define the details about them into a list called router details. Router details is equals to a list. This list will contain dictionaries. The very first dictionary will have a key called IP, and the value to that is going to be the management IP of my router number 1, 10.255.1.101, comma. Along with IP, I will also specify the interface details. Interface details which I want to implement on the device. So interface details is again going to have a dictionary inside it, which will say that for gig 0/0, the description should be management interface, comma. For gig 0/1 of my router 1, the description should be connected to R2. Let's have a look on the topology again. We are saying for gig 00, it should be management interface. For ZI01, it should be connected to R2. Similarly, I will specify the details of my other routers also by creating similar dictionaries. Another dictionary will have the key called IP, and the value to that is going to be 10.255.1.102, comma. interface underscore details, again a dictionary having the first interface gig00 with the description as management interface, comma gig 0/1 connected to R1, comma gig 0/2 connected to R3. That's my router 2 details. Then again a third dictionary for my router 3 with the management IP as 10.255.1.103, comma interface underscore details is equals to interface details colon dictionary gig 0/0 management interface, comma gig 0/1 connected to R2. This is how I want to set the description for my interfaces, and this is a data which you may receive in the form of Excel or maybe some other file. So you can even import this data into this particular file from your Excel file directly. You don't need to type this out by yourself. There are libraries like pandas which can help you in achieving that, right? So that's a later concern. We will be probably discussing about that in some other video. Right now, let's see how I can connect to my router one by one with all the 3 routers, and I can make sure that the interface descriptions are configured correctly. For this, I'll create a for loop. I'll say for routers in router details colon enter, and I'll create a variable called IP address, which is going to be nothing but from the dictionary routers, which is basically going to be this, and then in the next cycle this, and then in the next cycle this. So I'll say IP address should be from this dictionary the value of key called IP. That's going to be my IP address, and then I can say print connection initiated with, and we will concatenate that with IP underscore address. Once the connection is initiated, we have to specify the router details. So router dictionary is equals to a dictionary having IP, which will be simply IP address, comma having username, which I will directly ask my user using input function. Enter your username, comma next we will specify the password, which also we are going to ask the user using getPass. So when you collect something using getPass, you can hide it. It's going to get collected in a hidden manner, comma, and device type Cisco underscore iOS. So those who don't know, NetMiko requires these 4 arguments to create a SSH connection with the device. So using this for loop, I am specifying the details of my routers so that I can connect to them one by one. Once the connection is successfully established, the next step is checking the interface description. And if interface description is already there and is correct, then we will print out a statement that says description is correct. Otherwise, we will configure the correct description. So what are the correct description? First of all, they are these, right? And the associated interface name is nothing but their key names, correct? So what I'll do is I'll create another for loop which is going to help me in order to check if the appropriate interface is configured with appropriate description or not. So let's see how we do that. First of all, we will create a connection. SSH is equals to connect handler double asterisk router dictionary. Once the connection is created, I will first of all check if the interfaces are configured with the description or not. For this, I'll again create a for loop for int name, comma int description in routers, which is basically this dictionary, square bracket, interface details, which is basically inside this dictionary we have a key called interface details, right? So we will try to fetch the name and description from this dictionary called interface details. And to do this, to loop the data from the interface details dictionary, we have to use a function here called items, like this, colon, enter, and then I'll check the interfaces one by one. So let's first of all print a statement that says checking the interface and concatenate that with int underscore name. How do we check the description? We use the command show run interface gi00 or whatever is the interface name, correct? So we will send this command to the privilege mode using a function of netmiko library, which is send command. So let's see, interface details is equals to ssh dot send command, and I'll send the command show run interface space the interface name. So let's concatenate that as interface name. After running this command, I want to check if this particular description is present in the details or not. So how will I say that? I'll say if interface underscore description is in int underscore details, then print description is already configured. But if it is not there, then I do want to configure this description, right? So what we can do for that, we can create else statement where we will say if it is not there, then print configuring description. And to configure the description, we will have to specify the commands. So how do we configure an interface with a particular description? We use two commands for that. First, interface gi00, then we get into the interface config mode. Once we are there, we can set the description. So I'll create two f strings. I'll say interface space, I'll call the interface name, comma, description space, I'll call the variable interface description. Then to send these commands to the global config mode, we will use the function send config set. So send config set bracket commands, and this will take care of configuring the description. Once the description is successfully configured, we can print a statement saying done probably, and then we can make sure that we are disconnecting to the router by saying ssh.disconnect. Enter, and that's all what we have to do. This script will now take care of configuring the appropriate interface description on all the three routers. Let me show you first of all the current state of the descriptions. I'll take the access of my router number 1. Here if I say show run interface gi00, I do have a description, but that's not the appropriate description as per the database. It needs to be management interface, right? And on gi01, I do not have any description, right? So what I will do is I'll try to run my script and we'll see the updates on R1, R2, R3. Let me also show you the state of router 2. I'll say show run pipe section interface, and we can see none of the interfaces as of now configured with any description, right? Then if I go to router 3 now and check the similar command, show run pipe section interface, there also I can see there is no description, right? These routers are already configured with SSH configurations. So if I run this particular script, I'll be able to connect with my router over SSH, my script will first of all check if there is any description. If there would be any description which is as per the database, it will say description is already configured. Otherwise, it will say configuring description. Let's make it configuring description, and then it will take care of putting the commands on the router so that the appropriate description can be configured. Let's try. I will put a description first of all manually on GI00. So config t GI00, I'll set the description as management interface. So let's see how it handles the router number 1. I'll run my script. Okay, it says connection initiated with 10.255.1.101. Enter your username. I'll type down my username admin. Then it asks me to enter your password. I'll type Cisco. Even when I do type Cisco, it is still hidden because of the get pass function. Okay. So after typing Cisco, I'll hit the enter button. It says checking the interface GI00. Description is already configured. Why did it say so? Because I manually added the description on GI00, right? Then it says checking the interface GI0/1, configuring description, done. So now if I go and check my router number 1, show run pipe to the section interface, I'll not just see the description on gig00, but I'll also see the appropriate description on GI0/1 as well, connected to R2. Now the next connection is initiated with 10.255.1.102. I'll say admin Cisco. It should configure all the 3 interfaces. There you go. Gig00 configuring description, done. Gig01 configuring description, done. And same for GI0/2. Then router number 3, admin Cisco, done. You see how easily I have taken care of assigning the description to all the 3 routers, and not just one interface but multiple interfaces, right? So we can see the description for gig00, we can see it for gig01. Similarly, if you go and check your router number 2, show run pipe section interface, we can see the description for gig00 as well as for gig01 as well as for gig0/2. That's how easily you can manage and can make sure that your script not just configures something but also tests something. It is not always about description, it can be any configuration, probably some IP addresses, probably some OSPF configs, or any XYZ thing, right? A similar script can help you in checking around 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever number of routers with a fraction of time, which would take you if you do it manually. So it is the time when we try understanding automation and explore the concepts of automation for making our lives easier. That was all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and liked it. If you found this informative and insightful, then do like the video and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.